Before we start the show, a brief note that today's episode deals with suicide. If you or someone you know are having thoughts of suicide, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK.
Love now and
Did you fall in love last night? I love
Love was stronger than anything.
feeling love.
And I love you more than anything.
There's still love.
From the New York Times, I'm Anna Martin. This is Modern Love. And today, we're dropping 2 episodes with the author Samantha Joseph about her modern love essay, I Had to Stop Asking Why. In this episode, you'll hear Samantha read her full modern love essay. And then, for the last episode of our season, I have a conversation with Samantha about her story and about how the actor David Schwimmer helped her in a way she'd literally dreamt about for years. You can find that interview episode up next in our feed. Now, here's Samantha reading her essay.
For years, I had been having a conversation in my head with David Schwimmer. It's because of my Aunt Gail. She was a comedy division manager at NBC in the 1990s, and she worked on shows like Friends and Will and Grace and Blossom. She died by suicide at 39 in November of 1999, and after her death, an episode of Friends was dedicated to her.
What's up?
The episode is called The One with Ross's Teeth.
What happened to your teeth?
I whitened them.
Ross over-whitens his teeth and ends up on a date with a woman who has a black light.
So, where were we?
When the lights go out and the black light comes on, his teeth practically illuminate the room.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with me? You've got a black light. It's 1999.
I always thought it would have made Aunt Gail laugh. And because she died before the internet was part of our daily lives, this dedication is one of the first things that comes up when you search for her name. She worked with many celebrities, but her friends told me she had a special affinity for David Schwimmer. She even named one of her cats Rupert because apparently he would give that as his name when he checked into hotels. About 5 years ago, I found out that David Schwimmer was going to be speaking at a conference I could plausibly convince my boss to send me to. I wondered if this might finally be my chance to have that conversation in real life. Without giving it enough thought, I registered for the conference and booked my flight from Boston to New York. Several weeks later, when I was actually in New York, the panic set in. In my head, David Schwimmer always said exactly the right thing. What if a real-life conversation with him didn't measure up? Was it worth the risk? There was a lot at stake. As a child growing up in eastern Pennsylvania, I considered my aunt to be the coolest adult I knew. When we visited her in Hollywood, everything we did together was brighter and sillier than anything else in my childhood. My aunt loved purple and had an apartment full of purple things. When Wayne Newton visited her office at NBC, he wore a purple jacket. When Gail saw George Clooney play a plastics factory foreman on Roseanne, she knew that he was going to be a star. She was larger than life, and in her presence, I felt bigger and more important, too. When I was in my teens, she began to distance herself from my otherwise tight-knit family. She was angry about something I didn't understand. About 18 months before she died, I called her and begged her to be part of our family again. She said she couldn't. It was the last time we ever spoke. From my vantage point at 16, everything in her life seemed so exciting and glamorous. How could suicide feel like her only option? It was too hard to understand the complicated factors that led to her death. I adored her and felt like she adored me. And so the only why that made sense to me was that I must not have been good enough, that she must not have loved me enough. I replayed our last conversation over and over, trying to write a different ending. But no matter what I said, she still died. For the next 20 years, I believed I was bad and unworthy of love.
We'll be right back.
I needed to know why my aunt had left me, and I searched for answers everywhere. I was the only college freshman I knew with a private investigator. I got access to the police file from the day she died, and then I spent years trying to forget what I saw in it. I took a trip to California to meet her friends. I looked so much like her that they said it was like seeing a ghost. A few years ago, I even tried past life regression. The idea is that in a state of hypnosis, you can connect with former lives and visit the world in between lives. Some people believe that world is like heaven, where lost loved ones can be found. I was skeptical of the idea that our souls have lived past lives. My friend Ilana is a practitioner, and she explained that I didn't have to believe in it to have a meaningful experience. I could think of it as connecting with my own inner wisdom. I closed my eyes and tried to relax as she quietly counted down. Soon, I saw myself in a body I didn't recognize, in a place I had never been, speaking a language I didn't know. I watched that person die, and my soul made its way to the in-between world. And there was Gail, exactly like I remembered her. "Why?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time. "There is no why," she eventually replied. And that was it. I was back in my living room, listening to Ilana's gentle voice as she welcomed me back into consciousness. I still don't know what happened in that room, but it left me with a profound piece of wisdom. There is no why. I thought a lot about what that means, and I now believe the lesson is not that there is no why, but that there is no why that would ever be a good enough reason for her death. So my only choice was to stop asking. My aunt, or maybe just my subconscious, was offering me a lifeline, a way out of the prison I had built out of guilt and shame. All I had to do was take it. One of the saddest things for suicide loss survivors is that their loved one's life is often defined by their death. That one moment overshadows everything else. Once I stopped asking why, I had room for other questions. Who was she? What impact did she have? And who still remembered her? This is where David Schwimmer came in. In my head, my conversation with David Schwimmer always went like this. I say, "Hi, David, you worked with my aunt, Gail Joseph, a long time ago." And David says, "I remember Gail. She did such a great job, and we all really loved her." Even though it wasn't real, his words meant so much to me because I needed to believe that she was loved and good at the job that she cared so much about. What if I worked up the nerve to talk to David and he said, I don't remember? Or what if I didn't get to talk to him at all? These fears had left me a sobbing mess in my hotel room. I called my best friend Sarah and told her I could not do it. I could not meet David Schwimmer. I couldn't risk the dream. After a few deep breaths, we agreed that I was going to put on my big girl pants and go downstairs because not trying would be the worst outcome. I stood in the back while he spoke. I hoped I could catch him as he left, but after his speech, he sat down to listen to the next speaker. When that ended, I made a beeline for him, but some man got there first. When they finally stopped talking, David tried to sit back down, and that's when I stepped up and said, "Hi, David, I'm Samantha. You worked with my Aunt Gail Joseph a long time ago." He smiled and said, "Of course. I remember Gail. She was great, and we really loved her." Putting his hand to his heart, he added, "She felt like family. Thank you for giving me the chance to think about her." I did a lot more crying later that evening. My aunt did not live to see her 40th birthday. Over the past year, this thought has been with me as I approached 40. Now I have to find a way to survive the surreal and painful experience of living longer than she ever would. I spent the last 20 years asking why she took her life, trying to heal the part of myself that broke when she died. Then I searched to understand who she was. Now it's time to find out who I am. To make the most of each new day I have. To bring purpose to my loss and grief. To love other people and to know they love me back. To love myself. To live for both of us.
To hear my interview with Samantha, check our feed. The episode is called I Needed David Schwimmer's Help. Modern Love is produced by Julia Botero, Christina Josa, and Hans Butow. It's edited by Sarah Saracen. Our executive producer is Jen Poyant. This episode was mixed by Sophia Landman, and our show was recorded by Maddie Masiello. The Modern Love theme music is by Dan Powell. Original music by Dan Powell, Marian Lozano, and Rowan Nemisto. Digital production by Nell Gologli. The Modern Love column is edited by Daniel Jones. Mia Lee is the editor of Modern Love Projects. I'm Anna Martin. Thanks for listening.